everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about art school, or rather why I didn't go to art school and sort of my reasoning behind that. A good portion of you are already pretty familiar with that, but I know there's people subscribing to my channel every day and some of you might not know, and I've never really talked specifically about my background as far as art school goes and why I did or did not go. I still get this question all the time, and I thought I would just dive in a little bit more into my reasoning behind this. First of all, before I say anything, because I am 100% certain there's going to be people who are going to take what I say out of context and assume things based on what they want to see or think or perceive about me, but I am not advocating for or against art school. And with this video, I am not telling you what choice you should make for yourself. This is purely my decision, my opinion. I am in no way saying that you should make the same choice that I did. First of all, I have another video where I talk about how I became a full-time self-employed artist. If you guys want to watch that first, you can go ahead and do that. I'll leave it in the description. But I kind of hope that you'll watch that first or listen to it first. It'll also help you sort of understand my decision as well. I did go to college for a year. It was not an art school. I just took my basic prerequisites and I did that for a year. And at the end of my semester, I had issues with two professors that I felt just didn't care about their job. They didn't care about the students. One of them lost my essay, and I sent it to him 3 times, and it was like a huge part of my grade, and I emailed it to him 3 times. He actually lost 13 other students' papers, and that's just like... And so I kind of thought, like, is this what college is? Like, is this what's in college? Like, is this what professors do? I was there to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure which career I wanted to go into. I mean, I was sure that I wanted to paint and be an artist for a living, but I just didn't fully believe that I could do it. And so I thought, I'm gonna get a real job and a real respectable career, and then I'll do paint on the side. But in that year, I quickly discovered that I wasn't interested in anything else. There was nothing else that would make me happy, and the more I tried to force myself to lean in that direction, the more depressed I became. And I've been depressed for a very large portion of my life, and during that time I felt like I was just sinking deeper into a hole, and I just didn't go back to school. I kind of took a year off and thought, okay, I'm gonna take another year off and hopefully figure out what I want to do. I was also doing YouTube and painting on the side, and people were already buying my work. It just wasn't anywhere near enough to support myself full time. It was just like a side little income that would help with paying gas and occasional groceries, you know, stuff like that. So that's just like a brief backstory. So after I didn't go back to school, I took a little break and I thought, well, we'll figure something out. And I entertained the idea of art school because I thought, well, if I go into a career that I'm not passionate about, that I'm not excited about and just really want to do and do well, I would be a terrible whatever it is that I choose, whether I choose to be a doctor or a lawyer. I just assume I'm going to be bad at that. I will be doing a disservice to the world. I will be doing a disservice to the people who come to me for skill-based work. Because I just wouldn't be passionate. I would be completely lukewarm, nonchalant, and depressed. And we don't need people like that as teachers, as doctors. We don't need that. We need passionate individuals who are really interested in the career choice that they want to do. That's what I believe, at least. We don't need teachers that are just there to pay their bills and not really care about the students, because you're making such a huge contribution to society. You know, if you want a stable, functional, healthy society, it starts with education. It starts with raising kids properly. I just decided, you know what, like, I keep trying to go in this direction that society expects me to go, because this is the path, this is the trajectory you're supposed to follow. This is what's gonna give me financial stability and respect and, you know, just all the things that you're supposed to do as an adult, right? Not that there's anything wrong with those things. Those are all wonderful things to have. But that was the only thing, that was the only motivator for me. It wasn't because I found a job aside from something creative that I really loved. It was because I thought this is what I'm supposed to do, and if I don't do this, I'm going to be considered, you know, a degenerate or a loser or something. So again, those aren't really the best motivators to go into a career. I just want to be respected. Like, no. Go into a career because you love it, because you're excited about it, because you're passionate about it, because you want to be the best possible whatever it is, whatever insert career that you want to do. Do it because you love, you're genuinely interested in that. And I understand that I am saying this from a place of privilege. In a sense, not everybody has the chance to pursue what they love. So I entertained the idea of art school. I live in Florida, and in my area there's an art school called Ringling. Ringling School of Art and Design, I think is the full name of it, is a very renowned art school that a lot of people just move down here just to go to that school, and it's a great art school. There's a very high success rate that a lot of people who graduate from there end up with some sort of career. However, it's very, 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 very expensive. For me to get a bachelor's, I would have had to throw myself in debt over $100,000, and I don't come from a rich family. I am an immigrant. I moved here when I was a child with a single mom. We didn't have a lot. We had just the minimal basics essentials to survive, and it was very difficult. And it's not like I had parents that can put me to school. I didn't have a trust fund. I didn't have a college plan saved for me by my parents. I just had zero. And secondly, it's not like there was a guarantee. Like, yeah, there was a pretty high success rate and a very high rate of graduates being hired at some point. There was still no guarantee. I still knew people that weren't able to find work. I wanted to paint, and I feel like the biggest focus in that school was leaning towards the digital side, like illustration and digital art, comic books, all that kind of stuff. Not actual fine art, which is the art that I create now and the art that I've always wanted to make. So even if I would go to that school, it wouldn't exactly give me the career that I wanted. My goal has always been to be self-employed and have my own business. I have issues with authority. I don't like being told what to do. I absolutely hate it. I don't want my future, my career, and my overall well-being to be dependent on somebody else, somebody hiring me or somebody telling me that I'm good enough. I didn't want that. So I figured that particular school was not an option. But then I entertained a cheaper school that was also, technically an art school, but again, they didn't have the classes that I wanted to take for painting. There was just separate fields that were not at all what I wanted to do. I was not interested in graphic design. Like, I wanted to paint. I wanted to make fine art. I thought, okay, well maybe I should just do it anyway. It's still sort of a creative career that I can possibly make a living from, and I'll get to make art and, do painting on the side, but I'll still get to just make art full-time, whatever. That degree was a little bit cheaper, but I don't want to say the name of the school, but it's actually, I think, being sued for fraud because they took the money that they got from the student loans and did something shady with it. And the school was located in Tampa, and I also knew two people that went there and graduated, and they were not able to find stable income or companies that would actually hire them to work for them. It was just a very shady school, but at the time I didn't know that, and I thought it was also very reputable. So I went in for like a consultation or an appointment or whatever, and I brought my portfolio, I had all my work in it, and I thought, okay, I've got to be accepted into this art school. They immediately went into the money part of it. There was no accepting process. Like, they didn't ask me what my qualifications were. They didn't ask me about my grades in high school. They didn't ask me about my grades in college after high school. They didn't ask me about my art. They're just like, yep, you're in, here's how you pay us. And I found that so strange. And at one point in that meeting, I even asked, like, do you even want to see my work? Like, if I'm qualified to be here at all? And they're like, oh, we don't need to, but I mean, if you want to show us, you can. What? I was always under the impression that in order to get accepted into a good art school, you needed to have, a certain ability already developed, because there's only so much they can do. If you're not at a certain level they'll be able to gauge, you know, whether or not there's a chance of success with you. So this school apparently didn't care. This school just wanted you to pay them, and they'll throw you in there and you do your best. But like, what? I was amazed. And so the finances with that school were going to be also a lot less than Ringling, but so for a 4-year degree it would have cost me about $86,000, but because I'd be paying the loans with interest, it would end up being over $100,000. But this school didn't even have a very high success rate, so there was no guarantee. And so but here's the other thing. On top of loans that I would have qualified and scholarship that I had, with the maximum balance that I could have possibly paid for my tuition with that money, I would still have to pay an extra over $500 every single month out of my pocket. Sorry, no. So I didn't go to that art school. It seemed absurd to me to throw myself into debt for something that was not even going to guarantee me a career or a stable job. I thought the whole point of going to school and getting a degree was to find stable work. And that's the other thing. Even people that weren't in art school, just trying to find normal work, they had marketing degrees, business degrees, or education degrees, a lot of them were working in restaurants with me and unable to find work. I think education is a very valuable thing, but I also think you need to be passionate about what you're studying and passionate about the career you want to be in. The other thing that I realize now is that not all art schools are created equal. Not all instructors are created equal. I did some research on art schools and like students that came out of art schools that had, you know, fine art degrees in painting, and I started to see their work look very, very, very similar. It's like they were all kind of becoming their professors. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Their art was really good, but it all looked so similar. Like, it almost looked like the same artist painted all these different things. Like even the brush strokes, the colors, the palettes, I don't know. I'm not gonna mention any of these names, by the way, because I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, and I'm certainly not throwing shade at art school, because I've also seen some incredible artists come out of art school and become super successful. New York Academy of Art, which is an amazing, amazing art school. I have not been there, but I've seen the artists that come out of it, and they're just insane. For me, it just wasn't worth it to throw myself into that much debt for something that had no guarantee for me. That's one thing. Secondly, I saw artists that were self-taught painters doing really well and being super successful, arguably even more successful than some of the artists that came out of art school. And so I thought, well, what's the point of this piece of paper that I'm paying over $100,000 for if I can actually possibly do this on my own? And at that point, like, you know, the answer was clear to me. I was just gonna keep practicing and keep teaching myself to paint to the best of my ability. If there's something that I wish I had with art school, was, you know, the guidance and instruction of artists who were successful artists themselves, not only just, you know, professors or instructors at the art school, but actual successful artists with experience, years and years of experience in the field. I would have loved their guidance and their advice. I would have loved to make connections through that art school and participate in art shows through that art school. I would have loved to take part in life drawing classes, life painting classes, where, you know, you have a model and you're painting from life. I feel like that would have been super awesome for my skill development. And I do paint from life sometimes, but I don't have, like, there's nobody in my life that has time to sit for me for like 7 hours. It's just not. Everyone's busy, we have things to do, but in art school you have the chance to do that because there's models that are paid to pose in the studio and students paint them. There's a gallery in town that they have, you have to pay to participate, but you can pretty much go to their gallery and set up your painting, and all these artists are around the studio and there's a model and you paint. So it's not like you don't have an instructor or anything, it's just for practice, but I'm looking into possibly doing that just to kind of like broaden my horizons. And I would like to take some painting workshops with artists that I really admire, just to see another perspective on things. You don't need an art degree to become a full-time artist, and you don't need an art degree to become a good artist. And I'm not saying that I'm an amazing artist. It's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just an artist. I just like to make art and paint, and that's all I ever wanted to do, and now I get to do it full time, and I'm absolutely happy with that. And I'm always trying to further my abilities and learn something new, improve in some way. I just didn't see art school as the only way to get there. That's one thing. It's like, I don't want people telling me what to do and how to do it, and there's so many different ways to make art. What's to say that there's just one correct way, like you gotta do it this way? No, I don't believe that. And I also noticed there was a bit of a pretentious attitude that came from some art schools, where like people that came out of it were just super pretentious about it, and unless you went to art school, you're not a real artist, and your art sucks regardless of what you paint. You know, if you're not at art school, like forget it, you're garbage. Which, I mean, okay, gee, thanks. Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna have their own opinions, and I think art school can be a very wonderful thing if it's an art school that resonates with the kind of art you want to make. You know, there's art schools that focus on contemporary art, there's art schools that focus on illustration, comic book art, or digital art, graphic design, and fine art. It just depends on what you want to do specifically. Not all art schools are created equal. Not all instructors are created equal. So choose wisely. There's definitely pros and cons to going to art school and not going to art school. I went on the path that, you know, best fit me, I think, and I don't want to come across as like all-knowing in any kind of way. I'm simply sharing my experience. I am not advocating for you to not go to art school, for you to go to art school. If there's anything that modern art taught us, is that any kind of art can become successful. And it's just this huge, wide world, and I'm excited to have the chance to sort of experience it and learn at my own pace through the things that interest me. There's so many incredible painters out there who didn't go to art school, who are self-taught, and they're amazing. Clearly, art school is not the only way to learn how to paint. There's other ways to do it. But if you are in art school, I suggest just fully taking advantage of all the resources you have, not just in class, but the connections you could possibly form. Really do a lot of networking and build connections with people in the business. Don't just expect your degree to get you hired, to get you a job. Don't rely solely on that. I think with art, more than anything, the work needs to speak for itself, and no piece of paper is really going to say that your work is good. That's up to the viewer to decide. Unlike with other careers, you absolutely need to get a degree to become a doctor. You can't just teach yourself how to do heart surgery. That would be disastrous. But art is different. Art is more intuitive, it's more free-flowing, and I don't think art is something that needs rules. If anything, I think art is better when the rules are broken. But that's just my opinion. What do I know? I didn't go to art school. Just to clarify for the 10,000th time, because I know that my words are going to be twisted and misconstrued, I am not advocating for or against art school, purely sharing my own experience. I just kind of paved my own path, and I'm very happy with that. I don't regret my decision at all. I would have loved to have some of the resources that are available to students at art school, but I didn't really have $100,000 to pay for it, and I didn't have the desire to throw myself in debt for the rest of my life in order to have that, and so I will find other ways to get there. So I hope this video, this little rant, clarified some things regarding me doing art. Again, I have a much more in-depth story about my background and how I sort of ended up here as a full-time artist, and you can watch that. I'll link it in the description. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!